And so everybody says, well, what do we do? We have obviously budget cuts coming, an economic recession. We don't have a lot of money, but we do have a lot of money in this overall city capital plan on a lot of less important things. And so what we want to do is shift some of that money into school construction. For example, there's nearly $1 billion in the city's capital plan for new and expanded prisons in Brooklyn and the Bronx. Meanwhile, the crime rate is dropping. The prisons at Rikers is under capacity. The new budget proposal from the mayor's office says they want to close one of the buildings at Rikers to save money on operating funds. Go on. Communities oppose these in their communities. They want to expand and open up a new jail in downtown Brooklyn. There's a very vociferous campaign against that. And in the Bronx, they can't even cite it because the first place they wanted to put it in Hunts Point, the community opposed it so hard that they can't get agreement. So they haven't even cited the jail in the Bronx. Spending more money, obviously, on new jails rather than investing in prevention, education, or rehabilitation is outmoded corrections thinking anyway. And you can see the inmate population has been dropping, both because of the crime rate going down, but also because of the Rockefeller drug laws. Here is our chart of what happened to enrollment this year. It's a little bit iffy because we only have the numbers from the IBO who say they got them from DOE. I took the other numbers from the last 3 years from Office of Management and Budget and just added on the 14,000. But you can see, obviously, our enrollment is going up now. And that does not include charter school parents. Births. You can attract some of this through the birth rate, which the DOE has never bothered to do. Birth rates are still going up. Significantly higher the last few years. These are kids who are not even reached the age of kindergarten yet. So what we want to do is also the Police Academy in Queens. Kathy probably, I don't know what Kathy thinks about it, but this was passed by the City Council, but apparently they can always downsize it in later versions of the budget. We're going to be spending $1.5 billion for a new police academy in the Queens, with 250 classrooms, a museum, a residence for visiting scholars and lecturers, replicas of a subway station bank and bodega, whereas there were only 250 new police recruits in July of 2009. I think that's maybe, July 2009, and 112 in January. 112 police recruits. Do we really need 250 classrooms? I believe in smaller classes, but that's ridiculous. So if we took some of the money from the Police Academy and all of the money for the new and expanded prisons in the Bronx and in Brooklyn, that would generate, say, $1.5 billion. That wouldn't take it all away, but it would take most of all the money for the prisons and some of the money for the for the Police Academy. And if you put it in education, something magical happens. Unless they change the funding formula, which I guess could happen, but they haven't even talked about it yet, so don't give anyone any ideas. Go back. What happens is the state provides matching fund for every dollar the city spends on school construction. A lot of people don't know about that, including in the city controller's office. They did a report last year where they didn't even know that, and I had to tell them, and I said, you have to change your report, and they said, really? Well, I'll have to check on that. But anyway, so you could create $3 billion for new school construction out of that, which would double the amount in capital plan for new capacity and provide 30,000 extra seats. It would also do a lot of other things. Be a big lift to the city's economy, shore up our middle-class tax base, because they want middle-class people to leave elsewhere now. They're practically begging them, to leave the kindergarten wait list and move out of the city, but we don't think that's a good idea. And of course, allow us to have a quality education for our kids, allow them to graduate with a degree, allow them to get a good job, allow them to have a successful life. How can you help? Each year as part of the capital budget, I think Robert mentioned, they have to vote on the capital budget all over again. They put in amendments. Chris Quinn's position, strangely, is they cannot vote no. She had introduced some legislation in Albany, but I'm not sure where it's going or even what it said, because when I looked at it, it wasn't even that strong. But we believe, of course you can vote no. You can certainly negotiate hard. and try to make sure that your council member says they will vote no unless they put more money in. And here we have the list of the 8 or 9 council members who did vote no. Some of them have moved on to other venues in life, so we have to start from scratch. But it was not a great success, but I can tell you it was the only surprise in the budget last year. And a lot of the reporters said, hey, we had some people voting no on the capital budget, because it almost never happens. I don't think anyone voted no on the operating budget. No one generally votes no on anything at the city council when it gets to that level of the budget. And I saw a lot of reporters who said, yeah, what's going on here? We had some people voting no. They hadn't been following the story, but, with a little bit of pressure, and, we pushed, and we got some of these people to vote no. So this year we're starting early. We hope with your help that we will get more traction and more pressure on them. And we also need a lot of other reforms, and there is legislation out there introduced by Chris Quinn and Robert Jackson that's going to hold hearings in April on reforming the Blue Book. We want to strengthen that legislation, but basically that says what schools are under capacity, and as Sarah is the biggest expert in the world on this will tell you, those numbers are all flawed. They say it's under 100% even though class sizes may be big, you may have no cluster rooms, you may have no space for special ed students, and then they put a charter school in your building as well. So we want those numbers to be much more accurate. About half of all principals say the numbers are wrong for their own schools. And so these are some of the reforms that we would like in that bill as well, to have involve parents in SLTs in the yearly space assessment, make sure there are enough cluster rooms, make sure that it's aligned to the class size levels in their class size plan. And then we also need more than that. We need independent and transparent enrollment projections. Sheena and others will tell you, and Noah will tell you how it's impossible to get any enrollment projections out of DOE that are accurate. They pay two expensive consulting firms year by year to do their enrollment projections, both of which said we're not going to see any citywide increases until 2016. And we saw it this year already. And we need it done by someone independent. We also need a needs assessment, by a group done other than class size matters, because obviously, we don't have the expertise to do it well. We think maybe the city controller's office, Daniel Squadron, who's the state senator who is introducing legislation on this, suggested the independent budget office because they have new responsibilities in the governance law that have to do with education. Either one of those would be fine with us, but we think somebody's got to do it on an annual basis, some reliable numbers, so we know exactly what the capital plan will and will not achieve each time before it's voted on. And this is just a quote that I often end with when I went around interviewing principals in schools throughout the city in 2000, in the first year of the city's money coming from the state for class size reduction. This is a principal said that it's the most important thing. It's transformed her schools. For the first time, they're providing the resources children really need. Speaking as an educator, class size reduction should not be a privilege. It should be a right. So I can see I went up to 11.
It's really a pleasure, and it's been a privilege really to be able to work with other parents. It's very rewarding for me. It makes me want to go back to all of these parents.